Skip it up and that up.
So I think people are going to start thinking that I have a man crush on Michael Pachter because I've been talking about him a lot. But he's been coming up in a lot of different articles, and he's been saying some interesting stuff. And this time he was talking to Game Informer in the newest issue, and they asked him, hey, the Wii U, do you think there's any way that the Wii U can make a comeback, and do you think it could be successful in the future? And what he said was really interesting. Well, the first part of it, I totally agree with. And the second part of it, not that I disagree, it's just an interesting analogy or comparison he made. But the biggest thing he said, like he says, he's like, they have to surprise us somehow. I don't know what they could do with the Wii U to make it do a full comeback, but he's like, when you look at the Wii when it launched was so much cheaper than its competitors. The Wii was $250. The Xbox 360 when it launched was $399. I think they had one for $299 too, or I'm not sure about that. That's coming off the top of my head right now. And then they had the PS3 was, we all know, $600. So that made the Wii enticing, and plus the Wiimote was much easier to understand. And then he started talking about his mother. I'm not kidding. When the Wii came out, he said she was 83, and he gave her the Wiimote. And she's like, she loved it. She was playing tennis and she was laughing so hard. She knew what to do from the get-go because it's obvious you would swing the Wiimote like a tennis racket. She thought it was fantastic. And then, fast forward 6 years later, the woman who is now 90 almost, 89, she may even be 90, came over and was like, hey, you have any new consoles? And Michael was like, yeah, we have the Wii U. And he said he handed her the gamepad and she had no idea what to do. And that's what he said what the fundamental flaw with the Wii U is that they tried to be too innovative. Like they tried to find something a need for something that no one had a need for. And he said he was surprised by that because Nintendo, they came out with the first real comfortable gamepad with the NES. And he just thinks that the Wii U gamepad is unnecessary. And I'm paraphrasing here. There's other things in the article as I kick my glasses across the table with my finger kick. But whatever. The point being is that, you know, he's just basically saying the Wii U, the gamepad was unnecessary. Nintendo, he said they should scrap the Wii U, which I've talked about before. Well, I'll give my take on what I think the future of the Wii U is in a second, but okay, Mike, I could see what you're saying with, you know, with the original Wii, you had the Wiimote. When you play tennis, you knew to swing. When you were boxing, you knew to fight. With the gamepad, it's a little bit different, but you also have to realize your mother is 90 years old now. So maybe that's the reason why she couldn't really understand the Wii U gamepad. It is true, it's not as accessible as the Wiimote was. I agree with you, but you know, using your 90-year-old mother or close to 90-year-old mother as an example of that maybe wasn't the best idea. In some ways it was good because it showed how accessible the Wii was, but to hand a woman a Wii U gamepad, which I don't think even Nintendo was going after her market, maybe that wasn't the best idea. But now I'm going to release the bad news that I said I was going to wait 2 years for. But it's over a year now that the Wii U is launched, and I think it's time to talk about it. And the Wii U is never going to live up to the Wii. It's going to be a failure compared to the Wii, and it's not going to ever become the dominant console this generation. When the Wii was first announced, or the Wii U, I mean to say, was first announced, I had these high hopes that Nintendo was finally going to do what they did with like the Super Nintendo, where they were the de facto console to go to for first and third party titles. You went there when you thought of the Super Nintendo, you thought of like, you know, Square Enix releasing Final Fantasy games. All of the multi-plats in most cases, minus a couple sports games, always seem to be better on the Genesis. Why that was, I don't know. But when you thought of multi-plats, you went over to the Super Nintendo. And I was thinking, yeah, finally, you know, because back then, when they were first talking about the Wii U, it was actually called Project Cafe, or people are calling it the Wii 2. You know, there were specs being released about what was to be the Xbox One and PS4, and they didn't seem that much more impressive than the Wii U. Obviously, there's a bigger gap now because we know the consoles are released, you know, faster memory, more memory, processors, so on and so forth. But I'm like, you know what? it doesn't seem like there's going to be a big gap with the PS4 and Xbox One, and Nintendo's coming out first, and they seem to really be trying to invite the third party, like, come on guys, come back to us, we're making a kick-ass system here. But what I think happened behind the scenes is that Nintendo was like, oh my god, we got to try to keep the casuals in. We got to try to keep the casuals in with the Wii U. What can we do? We can't just come out with like the Wii 2 with the Wiimote. What do we do? Holy shit, what do we do? I got it. Let's put a big screen on there. It's kind of like a tablet, and we could get the casuals back in. And then if they had the console, they see the Wii U, they're like, oh shit. And then they see the market also, I should say, and they see the casuals are going away from consoles, are going to tablets and smartphones and stuff like that. They're like, oh shit, we designed this thing for the casuals, and the casuals are gone. I guess, all right, shh, everyone shut up. Everyone shut up. This is a hardcore console. We're trying to bring the hardcore back in. Don't let anyone know we weren't. And that's what I feel like they did with the Wii U. Like, I wish that what Nintendo did is kind of what Sony did this generation. And believe me, Sony's made their fuck-ups in the past before. I've talked about, especially with when the PS3 launched. I wish they just made a straightforward, and Microsoft too, screw the Kinect. I just talked about it in the previous video tonight. I wish they just made a straightforward damn console with good specs, decent hardware, and accessible hardware for third-party developers. You just give them a controller, and you know what? If you want to add accessories later on, you got them. But instead, the gamepad developers don't want to deal with it. The hardware, whatever, the real world, you know, it is less powerful than the PS4 and Xbox One. Let's just be real here. So third-party developers are probably going to shy away from it. One, because it's not selling as well as it should, the Wii U. And two, because they just don't want to. It's a different architecture and it's slower. So they can't make the games at the same level they can on the PS4 and Xbox One. So here's what Nintendo's really going to. Now, is the Wii U going to be a complete unprofitable mess for its whole life? We'll have to wait and see. I don't think so, though, because what'll save Nintendo is like what always saves Nintendo. Even though Mario 3D World, as great as a game as it is, didn't really do that, it's their first-party exclusives. They have the best world-class first-party exclusives out there. So Nintendo will always be able to sell a decent amount of consoles just on the fact that people love their first-party games. So when a true Zelda game comes out, systems will start moving. When Smash Brothers comes out, systems will start moving. I don't know about Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, but Nintendo, you dropped the ball again. You're going to be in third place this entire generation. I do agree with Michael Pachter. I think throughout the full generation, you probably only sell like 30 or 40 million Wii U's, which sounds like a lot, but when you think about it, you know, generation could be like 8 years long, 10 years long. It's not that many. And, you know, you should have just, I don't understand what you're afraid of, Nintendo. Why didn't you just make a kick-ass powerhouse console that would have just, and you had the whole year start. Imagine they released something that had the same hardware as like a PS4 and Xbox One. Or PS4, because it actually has more powerful hardware. They respect the spec with the PS4. They came out with kick-ass first-party exclusives a year before their competitors. So they have this system. It's just as powerful as the PS4. They have a whole year lead. And they came out with like Super Mario 3D World and a bunch of great third-party games. And they had that year leap over their competitors. It would have been a wrap. It would have been over. Nintendo would have won this generation hands down. But I don't know what they're thinking up there. You know, when people get very defensive and say, hey, Nintendo has a ton of cash. Yeah, they do have a ton of cash. They're in much better financial health than Sony is. Sony is in much bigger trouble when it comes to finances than Nintendo is. But they need to learn now. Okay, oh yeah, we have a ton of money, we could fuck up. You don't want to do that because then you'll be in Sony's boat and then you'll see Nintendo starting to close up buildings and selling off assets to try to keep themselves above water. I don't know what you did, Nintendo, but I'm disappointed, and I wish you had a much better business model than what you have now. Anyway, folks, once again, this is Rich of Review Tech USA. Make sure to rate, comment, favorite, and subscribe. And as always, thank you for supporting my channel. Have a good one.